Hello, baby dolls. So a little bit of social advice. This is something that's always been around, but lately has been more of an issue. I think a lot of people have been bringing this to me as an issue, and I've been seeing this more in the scene. So I just wanted to examine it from a different perspective. It is Christmas time, it is the season of goodwill, and looking forward to the new year, and it is the solstice, so it is the time of letting go of the past and moving on to better things, rebirth, all that kind of stuff. So humans are humans, humans are tribal animals, humans are highly evolved monkeys. I'm assuming there's no creationists on my blog. If you are, that's cool. It still works. It still works. So we have a tendency to establish our own position in the center of our group, which is socially safe, by excluding others. And that can be done a lot of ways. And this is something that happens with the left wing more than the right wing, and a lot of the scene are more left wing or very left wing, and that is fine and that is cool, but this is just like a problem people have noticed with other left wing people, fairly or not, you decide. There tends to be a lot of infighting and a lot of calling people out for not being extreme enough or being too extreme or using the wrong terms or having the wrong attitudes. They're not fitting quite into the bubble that you want to be the center of, so they need to be cast out, and they're wrong and they're bad. And that can apply for everything from couples who are unicorn hunting, I know, huge debate there, not going into that now, to a lot of other details, like if someone disagrees with you on a really simple point, or if someone has phrased something a way that you think is archaic or exclusive or doesn't make you feel good, but you think they should change, so you attack, and then obviously they're defensive, then there's a big fight. And this is not what we should be doing. We're meant to be showing the world that we are better than the vanillas. We're meant to be making a better world, a utopia, where everyone is included and everyone is involved and everyone is celebrated in their own diverse self, to be their true self, to live their best life, to make the community what it is. And we are pulling each other apart. And sometimes this is done intentionally because people want to be the biggest fish in a small pond, and they feel the best way to do that is attack, attack, attack to get to the top. But ultimately, it's not a zero-sum game. If we win, we all win. If we lose, we all lose. And all we're doing with this is showing the vanilla world that we are the scary boogeyman that they believe we are on Channel 5 or wherever, from what they've seen, from what is extreme. Everyone has a problem. We are better than most of the vanilla scene. And I'm hearing so many people saying that places are unsafe, or people are unsafe, or people are predatory, or people are narcissists. And this is not a judgment we can make. We're not their psychotherapist. We have an interaction with them. It may be a negative interaction, which may be completely accidental. It may be a misunderstanding. You may feel it's pointed, or that you were victimized in some way. You may feel you were left out or excluded, or that someone did not respect your boundaries. But pretty much everyone, 99.9% of people, feel like they are the good guy. Feel like they are the person who is doing the thing, making the world a better place, trying to live their best life. Everyone else likes them. What's your problem? So this is where conflict happens. And things being what they are with social media and the scene, it's a small world, but a lot of things are very anonymous these days with websites and chat groups. And this could be any kind of chat group. There may be hundreds of people on them. It may be for something completely unrelated to what comes up, and a debate occurs. But it's not really a debate because you don't know each other. There's no voice. There's no facial expression. There's no context. Someone says a thing. This is a bad place to go. This is unsafe. Or this is a bad person. This is a bad person who runs an event, so both are unsafe. Now, that's kind of a totally different thing. If you like a person and if you like an event. There are events run by lovely people who are very safe, which I would say did not meet the security standards and planning that were required to make the event safe. And that's a learning curve for them. There are also people who are people I would not choose to spend time with, but their events are great because they've planned them well. And events are never one person. It's not one person's birthday party, unless that's literally what it is. If it's a public event, if it's a ticketed event, it's a huge network of people. That's like saying, a chocolate bar is made by Willy Wonka. No, it's made by the whole company. It's made by the whole conglomerate. It's got multifaceted things. There's people subcontracted. There's people for an event who are bringing in furniture. There's people who are doing the marketing. There's people who are doing the advertising. There's people who are doing security and staffing and all sorts of things. So these are huge, multi-connected events. And of the people I know who are founders or organizers of events, they never actually play at their events because A, they're way too busy, and B, they're very aware that there's a huge power differential between them and the guests that could later be regretted or misconstrued. So they're incredibly wary. They're never playing at their events. They're hosting, they're organizing, they're solving problems, they're unblocking the loo, they're collecting the glasses, they're doing whatever is needed. They're solving the problems that people make with each other when they misunderstand, or someone has got too drunk, or someone didn't hear what they said and thought they said something else, or didn't like the way they looked at each other because they didn't realize the person's actually short-sighted and wasn't even looking at them, or, a zillion silly little things, because conflict occurs in our lives. And yes, we all want to live our best lives, to go to great events where we feel personally celebrated. We walk in, we feel like everyone loves us, everyone's our friend. These incredibly gorgeous people that we thought were out of our league instantly come up to us and want to talk to us. And we feel validated, like our whole lives, we were so wrong, we're so much more than we thought we were. But everyone wants to feel like that. And not everyone can feel like that at every event because things are complicated and people are people and people have bad days and people say things that can be misconstrued. People have different neurodiversities. People can be neurotypical. People can be from different cultures where different things are considered normal. People can be early on their journey where they're still learning some of the subtleties and don't realize when they're necessarily doing something wrong and need to be constructively, gently educated and guided. Or if that's not your position and you don't want to do that and that's not the situation, let them go on their way to live their journey elsewhere. People, by and large, aren't completely stupid, even if they're new. We don't need massive cotton wool put around us. We don't need this level of protection where everyone is looking out for us and telling us, be careful of this, be careful of that, be careful of this person. 99% of the time, you don't know. You don't know the person and you don't know the event. And the thing with rumors, you can read some Richard Dawkins if you want some scientific backstory on this. The thing with rumors is it may start out as something really simple. Say I went to an event, I didn't have a good time, maybe I was tired. Someone kept talking in my ear, and I was like, okay, leave me alone, I've had enough. Maybe they didn't hear me because the event is noisy, they spoke a foreign language, they're a bit drunk, whatever, and I felt like I was being pestered. I then go tell my friend, and they're like, oh, should we go to this event? I was like, you know what, I don't know, I went to this and I felt pestered and I didn't really have a good time. So they take this away. The story changes a little. Someone else asks them about the event. Oh, my friend went there and she really didn't have a good time. She said she felt pestered. And they're like, oh gosh, maybe the security's not very good. Then their friends ask them about it. And the story then becomes, oh yeah, my friend's friend went there and she was like pestered all night because, people love to dramatize a story. And then before you know it, they're telling all their friends, 100, 1,000 people know this is a terrible event because I had a bad night and things got misconstrued. And then, the story progresses, it becomes more and more elaborate. This happened to me and that happened to me and I was snatched away and I was kept in jail for 10 years and all this kind of thing happened at this event. And the story becomes so preposterous that eventually if you tell people the story, they're like, well, it's obviously not true. So what then happens is people summarize. People summarize a story and go, well, this is widely known that this is a really unsafe event. I've heard this from loads of people. Of course you have, because it was a great story. It doesn't matter that it wasn't really based in reality and that 300 people could have been there that night who had a great night and felt completely safe. It's the story that spreads is the story that's most elaborate, that's most engaging. Richard Dawkins again. So the one that grows wings and then grows claws. That's what they do. This is how stories work. And so we need to be really careful when we're saying, I'm telling you this because you're all my friends and I'm looking out for you. We're looking out for each other. We need to know we're going to be safe. Nowhere is completely safe. Every event, whether on the scene, whether vanilla, is lots of people. Scene events are usually, not always, much safer than vanilla events. And when we say something is unsafe, what are we really saying? Because that can mean a lot of things. If a person is unsafe, if an event is unsafe, does that mean I go to the event, I'm going to be robbed, held up at gunpoint? You know, how does this end? Does this end in my demise if I go to the event? Is it that bad? Or is it that someone felt unsafe there because they didn't feel acknowledged, or they felt like their gender identity wasn't celebrated in the way they wanted, or they had a disagreement with someone at the event, which may have just been purely verbal and easily missed by security? What does unsafe mean? Do we have to be responsible for making people always feel safe? I mean, we often try. Some people are very, very good at it. I have a friend who has loads of tips to make people say, this is a safe space from miles away, a safe space for everybody, come to me. And there's things you can do. But ultimately, when we communicate with people, there's always the chance for something to go wrong. There's always the chance for us to say something that in retrospect didn't sound the way we meant it, or because someone has had a different life experience to us and therefore they're easily triggered by certain things that we are not. So when we ask something completely casually, to them it could be a very traumatic thing that could be very upsetting to them because that's their lived experience. So if someone spends their life feeling harassed by people all the time, if you have a conversation with someone and go up to them, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be looking for signs of harassment, and they will see it because they're looking for it. And equally, if someone has an experience of always feeling excluded or ostracized, you go to an event, someone doesn't speak to you, they're going to be like, well, they didn't speak to me because of this, because of my age or my body size or my ethnicity or my gender identity or whatever the thing is that they're used to having to defend. So they're going to be hypersensitive to that, whereas you're going to be blind to it. And thus you can unintentionally hurt people and upset people. So this all needs to be borne in mind. And to a level, this should be obvious, right? People are people. People don't always communicate the way they want to. Their body language, their eye language, their tone of voice can communicate things they're not saying, and they don't realize you've picked up and interpreted it that way. There's so many things that can go wrong. There are people who do need to be locked away in prison. They exist in all walks of life, but fortunately they are few and far between. And we also have to realize that everyone is on their own personal journey of learning who they are and realizing. And it might take them 5, 10, 15 years to realize, wow, the person I was then, they did a lot of things I'm not proud of now. They spoke to people a certain way, or they held certain attitudes, or they did things that were hurtful to others and didn't take any accountability. It could be a zillion things, because we're all on this journey and we're all learning. And the difference between when we're 16 and 24, that doesn't stop from when we're 24 to when we're 30, or when we're 30 to when we're 50. We're all on a learning journey, and the world is changing around us as well. And we are all adapting and trying to find who we are in the world and what the world is in relation to us and the people around us. And we all want to make connections, and we all want to be celebrated. But we need to stop spreading rumors because we heard a thing. We really do. I heard a thing. The fact you heard a thing doesn't mean it's a true thing. And the fact you've heard it multiple places doesn't mean it's more true. It just means it was a more exciting rumor at the start and thus spread better. So if you want to know which events I could tell you that are unsafe because someone has told me, or several people have told me that they are unsafe because they heard a thing or a thing happened, all of them. You want to know which organizers are unsafe, problematic, narcissists, abusive, predatory, all of the bad things, all the things you wouldn't want an organizer to be? All of them. But they're not. I've met loads of them. Their events are great. A lot of the events that I hear are unsafe are the safest events I've been to. They are places like, if they were allowed, you could take a child. Like, honestly, they are consent driven. They're huge. There's security. Everything's in place. They're long standing. There's no problems. But you hear about them. People go, oh, this is a problem. But you know what? I'm guilty of this as well. I really am. Because I've heard of events and deciding what I'm going to go to, especially if I'm going solo or as a single woman, it's time, it's money. I'm going to be able to get home and we're walking into something that's going to be a problem for me and my personal safety. And by that, I mean like a high level problem. Not like I feel unsafe, I don't feel this is my event, because that's fine. I don't mind. I just don't review them if it's not my event. No one's everyone's event. Everyone's different. But the thing is, if we believe everything we hear about everybody and every event, nobody is safe. Everyone is a terrible person. Everyone is a bigot or a liar or a narcissist or has a huge ego or is patronizing or is fake or is biphobic and this is just interpretations people have taken from either things that are written or conversations they've had or things they've heard other people say, and they get blown out of proportion. Whereas if you actually speak to the person, they're usually very reasonable and very aware of what the issues are as well, because they will have likely been dogged by this problem for a long time once it occurs, because everyone loves to share a great story, right? Because we're gossips. This is part of how we bond socially, by sharing information with others. This is like a really primal thing to put us at the center of the group, show we're important, show we're connected, and make a connection. We love to gossip, but we have to be careful. Because by saying, oh, I'm saying this to protect other people, we're actually victimizing people who likely haven't done anything. And we're not protecting anybody, because then when things happen that are really serious, when an event has really serious problematic issues, or when a person does something that is really serious, it's awash in a sea of nonsense where someone had a bad night or didn't feel it or there was a misunderstanding. So yes, things happen, but there's perspective and there's reality. And did I see this thing happen? And there have been times when people have said things happened when I've been there and these things did not happen. The person was not even there. The person there that they're accusing of this thing happening at this time. And that's really unhelpful, because when things really happen, then people don't get believed. And I have only on one occasion sort of reviewed an event which I thought was extremely problematic. And this was years ago, and I did not mention the name of the event, but people probably guess. And I felt I needed to share this to protect people because I had personal experience there. It was not something that was personal to the organizer per se. It was something that was an operational safety issue. And there was a lot of other problematic issues there as well. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to share this to the world. So does this make me a hypocrite to say this now? Yes, absolutely. But also there has to be some growth. There has to be some room for perspective. There has to be room for us to change and shift and go, ow, wow, actually this was not doing the thing I thought it was. Because if we talk bad about people, when they see us face to face, there's a transference. People, if I say, okay, let's switch it around. If I say to you, my friend Jennifer, she is so gorgeous, she is so friendly, and she is so trustworthy. Those are traits you're now going to associate with me because I said them. But if you're hidden behind a screen or a fake name or an account on a group where you're sharing to hundreds of strangers, these things are just something that's thrown out that people bear in mind. Why are you doing this to people? Why be so unfair to people? If you have personal beef with someone, it's usually best to find a mutual friend, to have them mediate and have the discussion. Because sometimes they might go, oh, I didn't mean that. I'm really sorry you felt that way. Yes, I made a mistake. I'm changing this. Most people are not these, evil supervillain characters who are set out with these dark intentions. Most people are trying to do a good thing. And if I was to start a party and go, oh, I've got lots of friends, I see a niche on the scene, yeah, this is going to be great, I'll do a nice thing, give back to the community, present something new. So I have my party, and someone there tells someone else the next day, gosh, I don't know what happened, I suddenly felt really drunk, and then I was unconscious, and then when I woke up my bag was gone. What's gonna be the story about me a week later, a month later? Probably that I spiked their drink, that I stole their wallet. I mean, that sounds great, doesn't it? That's a great story. That's much more catchy than maybe I drank too much and it hit me suddenly. That's the story that's going to run. And this is why people are super, super cautious if they're hosting events. A lot of people won't even host events because they are worried about the enemies they will make and the things that will be said. And there seems to be no defense, but actually legally there is a defense. If you're posting stuff about people on Instagram or on a chat or wherever, and it's not a one-to-one conversation, this is the same legally as putting it in the newspaper, because you're deliberately setting out to influence the way other people are interacting with a person or their business. And that's not okay, so you need to be careful. It is okay to say, I went to this event and I didn't like it because XYZ, I didn't feel very included, or I didn't feel that people were very friendly, or I didn't feel my body shape was celebrated, or I didn't think the other people were attractive, or there was too much queuing up, because then it's specific and then people can make their own decision as to whether or not they think that's a valid reason to boycott it. If you just say, I didn't like the event, I felt unsafe, that's... you know, what are people going to take from that? That could be anything on a spectrum. So please, people, we're all in this community together. We're all trying to do a good thing. We're all trying to help and support each other. But please be careful with what you say and be careful with what you believe, because there is no merit in saying, I support people who claim these things, when other people are saying, but this never happened. That doesn't make you the better person. That just means you're supporting a vendetta that's based on a fiction, because people say things, people get hurt feelings. Just because someone doesn't talk to you, it doesn't mean that they despise you. Just because someone does talk to you, it doesn't mean they want to play with you. Just because someone plays with you, it doesn't mean they want to date you. Just because someone dates you, it doesn't mean they want a long-term relationship. And just because they want a long-term relationship, it doesn't mean it's going to last forever. Things change. So, you know, take care of each other. Take care of yourselves, and just think a little bit about the kind of person you want to be in the community, because the person who talks the most isn't always the one with the most to say. So check what is real, check what is just people larging it that they have lots of friends and know lots of information, because who doesn't, right? But not all of it is true, and good stories spread well, even if it hurts people in the process. And that's not what any of us want to do. We all want this to be a safe, inclusive space. And if you can't speak your mind, it feels unsafe. If you speak your mind and others disagree, they say if you've made them feel unsafe. But we have to take accountability for making ourselves feel safe and making choices. If we choose to disclose things to all and sundry, we need to hold ourselves up to scrutiny on, where did we hear this? What did we witness? And you know, what actually is the issue? Because everyone has different experiences, and you might think your ex is the worst person in the world, totally narcissistic, ruined your life. They might have a great relationship with everyone else who knows them, and sometimes it is just that chemistry and that history and things going wrong. And that doesn't mean you should be ruining each other's lives, because the best thing to do if you really feel like you need revenge, and trust me on this one from doing it the wrong way, if you really feel like you need revenge, what you really actually need to do is take some time away. Revenge is a way of tricking yourself into thinking that you're still connected to the person, into still feeling connected to a person or event because you haven't moved on. So get that therapist, talk to your friends, do some self-care. You know, ultimately, we're all just trying to live our best lives and make the best world for the people around us. And it's so disappointing for it to come crashing down so many times for so little reason, because people haven't done their due diligence. And so I love you, baby dolls. I love you, and we're all on our journey. And this was me once as well. So this is me speaking to my former self who did not think about this and wanting to do better. So have a happy Christmas and be good to each other.